Okay. So in this class tonight, we are going to go through chapter 3, life policy provisions, riders, and options. This is one of the most important chapters. Malis, welcome to class. Appreciate having you here. Welcome. So,
thank you, Uncle Va.
Yes, nice to have you. So this is one of the most important chapters because they connect you to almost every other chapter. So pay keen attention. I'm really going to go in depth in terms of the lectures here. Okay, we are going to try to do this and then do chapter 4, but let's first focus on chapter 3. I'm going to briefly lecture on it, just using the chapter recap, the chapter summary, and then we're going to go hammer on some questions. I'm going to try to do questions on this chapter for tonight. I'm going to have to do questions at least 2 or 3 deep, which means we're going to do the first 15 questions and maybe the second and maybe the third. So let's go to the chapter recap here. And again, you don't need to read the entire chapters. If you really focus on this chapter recaps and then do the quizzes and then listen to those videos, you're going to be good. So chapter recap here. First, we're talking about policy provisions. Policy provisions. Consideration is just what you pay to bind the contract. Again, when we talk about consideration is the third element of a contract. There are 5 elements of a contract: offer, acceptance, consideration, mental capacity, legal purpose. There are 5 elements of a contract. You'll see questions about, you'll see about 15 questions in the exam that have to do with elements of a contract. So you have to understand those. Again, I know I've talked about this in the previous class, but I'm just going to go through them briefly. Excuse me. Offer is when you offer to buy a product. Acceptance, or it can be either you offer to buy a product or somebody offers to sell you a product. It's just an offer. Acceptance is when the other party that is trying to negotiate for that product accepts it. So you go to a car lot, again, you see a nice red Maserati, you make an offer. I want to buy that Maserati for $75,000. You tell the agent at the car lot. He counter offers. He goes, no, we're selling it for $80,000. So that counter offer is seen as an offer. So you say, okay, I'll pay you guys $80,000. So there's an offer and an acceptance. Is there a contract? No, there's no contract. How does a contract come into effect? There has to be consideration. Something has to be paid to bind the contract. So consideration is what you give of material value to bind the contract. So we have offer, acceptance, consideration. What are the other 2 elements of a contract? Mental capacity. Mental capacity. Can a 12-year-old get into a contract? No.
No.
If a 12-year-old goes to Walmart, says, I don't have money, but I need a whole set of groceries. Give me the groceries and I'll come pay tomorrow. He takes your groceries for $300, doesn't show up. You show up at his house telling the mom, hey, this is your 12-year-old came and took our goods and promised to come pay. He hasn't paid. We want our money. Can you hold either the 12-year-old or the mom responsible? No. The 12-year-old does not have the ability to get into a contract. So that's the 4th element, mental capacity. What are some other examples of mental capacity? Somebody who has been declared by the state to be not of the requisite mental state of mind to enter into contracts. Another example, somebody whose mind is mentally impaired by drugs, either drunk or on alcohol. Those 2 people cannot get into contracts. So you sign a contract with somebody who is mentally impaired or somebody who is visibly and demonstrably drunk. That contract is either void or voidable. What's the 5th element? Legal purpose. You don't see a lot of questions on this, but you might. Legal purpose. This insurance license is a powerful license. when your neighbor finds out that you have an insurance license, and he comes to you and he says, you know, I don't really like my husband. I don't really like my husband. So I'm going to have us insure my husband for $2 million. And I'm going to find a way to slip something in his drink so that he dies. And then I'll collect the money. Please, you have this knowledge about insurance. Tell me how best I can do this so that there's no suspicion. And you write that contract based on that conversation. Is that contract legal? No, it's not legal. So it's a voidable contract. So again, the 5 elements are offer, acceptance, consideration, legal purpose, mental capacity. Entire contract. You see questions about the entire contract that have to do with them trying to say the entire contract is going to include the riders, it's going to include a copy of the application. Grace period. What is grace period? Grace period is when you have a policy and you miss a payment. How long will it take for that policy to cancel? Well, when you ask a lawyer or a doctor a question, they always give you the response of, it depends. So it depends. Grace period, it depends on if it's a term policy. If it's a term policy, term policies, again, not just if it's a term policy, but how often are the premiums being paid? If it's a term policy and you're paying the premiums weekly, the grace period is 7 days. If you're paying the premiums monthly, the grace period is either 10 days or 14 days, depending on your state. So state statutory law weighs in. So it's going to either be 10 days or 7 days. Again, if you're paying that premium monthly. How about if you're paying the premium yearly? What is the grace period? The grace period is either 30 or 31 days. So if you see 30 or 31 days in the exam as the grace period when that premium is being paid yearly, that is the right answer. Incontestability. Incontestability is when you have a policy. See, we talked about consideration. We talked about consideration as being what you materially give up to bind the contract. And that is from the perspective of the client. But the representations, the information, the facts you put on the application is also seen as consideration. Is also seen as consideration. Consideration on the part of the client involves the facts you put down on the application, and the money you pay to bind the contract. On the side of the insurance company or the insurer, you see the insurance company being referred to as the insurer. On the part of the insurer, consideration is the promise to pay when there's a loss. So if they have a policy and you have a long-term care attached to that policy, and they say, if you need long-term care, which means you cannot perform the 6 active daily living activities after 90 days, you're still in that condition, your long-term care is going to kick in, and they'll pay you a certain amount of money every month until that entire face value or death benefit exhausts. So consideration on the insurance company is the promise to pay when there's a loss. Incontestability is the 2 years after you sign the policy, where if there's anything you put on that application, again, remember the facts are consideration. Anything you put on that application, if it was wrong, if it was faulty, if it was a misstatement, within 2 years, if the insurance company catches it, they can cancel that policy and return your premiums. How about after 2 years? They cannot cancel it. So that the 2-year period is called the contestability period. The period after the 2 years is called the incontestability period. The only exception that they will change the policy if they catch it after 2 years. If you misstated something and they catch it after 2 years, is the issue of age. Is the issue of age. So if you said you were 45 when you were actually 60, and they catch it after there's a loss, the insurance company can rewrite that policy to what the death benefit would have been had the right age been stated. Had the right age been stated. Insuring clause is just the basic agreement between the insurer and the policyholder. There are other elements of the insuring clause that we will find out, but that's what the insuring clause is all about. Misstatement of age or gender, we just talked about that. The death benefit is adjusted. Payment of premiums, premiums are paid in advance. What is reinstatement? Reinstatement is if your policy lapses. Let's say you did not pay your premiums and your policy lapses. There are some terms or some conditions under which that policy can be reinstated. But the reinstatement period is limited. The reinstatement window is very limited. It might be 3 years maximum. Okay. Why is it better to reinstate a policy than to go get a new one? Well, let's say for Index Universal Life, if you, first of all, the one main criteria that they use to calculate your premiums is your attained age. So if you're 20, a $1 million policy is going to be cheaper for a 20-year-old than it's going to be for a 65-year-old. So if your policy lapses and they reinstate it, it is reinstated based on the based on the issue age, not the attained age. But if you go get a new policy, that new policy is offered to you based on the attained age, the current age at that time. However, if they want to reinstate your policy, you might have to pay all the premiums you missed. Okay. Assignment. The word assignment is a very legal term. It's a very legal term. Assignment means transferring the rights of part of that policy to a third party. Transferring the rights of part of that policy to a third party. Let's say you have a $1 million policy and you want to go take a loan from the bank. And the bank says, what do we have to guarantee that if you die before this loan is paid off, we're going to collect our money? And then you scratch your head. And you say, then you remember that I have a $1 million policy. Let's say you're taking a $200,000 loan from the bank. Tell the bank, I can assign you the $200,000 from that $1 million policy so that if I die without paying the loan, then you deduct whatever I owe the bank. That sort of assignment where you assign just part of a policy is called collateral assignment. Collateral assignment. So it's not the entire policy that you assign. You haven't transferred the ownership rights of a policy. You've assigned just part of the death benefit to guarantee a loan as a collateral. That is called collateral assignment. How about if you take a $1 million loan and you had a $1 million policy and the bank says, we want to become the owner of this policy. We want you to transfer the rights of this policy to us. That is an absolute assignment. So assignments can either be collateral or absolute. Okay. Now, a policy has ownership rights. A policy has ownership rights. Those ownership rights include the right to pay the premiums, the right to assign the policy, the right to transfer ownership. If it's a policy that accumulates cash, the right to withdraw cash, the right to take policy loans, the right to increase the face value of the policy. All of those are ownership rights. Exclusions. Policies sometimes will have certain exclusions. For example, if you're in the army, you're in the military, most policies will say if you die as a result of being at war, the policy will not pay. They will return your premium. So that's an exclusion. There are a lot of other types of exclusions, hazardous occupation, or if you have a hobby where you go fly planes during the weekend for fun, those are going to be exclusions in the policy. If you die because you're trying to be Tom Cruise in a cockpit of a plane, they are not going to pay. Free look. What is free look? When you have a policy, when that policy is approved, and when it's mailed to you, in all states, there's a period which you can look through that policy. And if you don't like anything, you can look through that policy. And if you don't like anything, you return it for a full premium, for a full refund. Now that period where you can reduce, you can refund your policy for a full refund is called the free look period. Okay, I need to move faster. Designations have to do with when you're setting up like a trust and you put that policy in a trust and you assign that policy to certain classes of people, like all my children and grandchildren. That's a designation. That's a class. Succession, there are levels of priority. Each level is only eligible if the beneficiary in the level above has died. So a lot of this has to do with estate law. I'm just trying to focus on what is going to be on the exam. There's also what they call a contingent beneficiary. See, a policy is going to have a primary beneficiary and a contingent beneficiary. A contingent beneficiary is the person who inherits the assets of the policy when the primary beneficiary is no longer alive. Policy owner rights, they are, like this is saying, they have a right to change the beneficiary. When you create a beneficiary to a policy, or when you name a beneficiary to a policy, that beneficiary can either be a revocable or an irrevocable beneficiary. Revocable just means you assign a beneficiary and you can change it. But if you create a policy or if you create a trust and you assign somebody as an irrevocable beneficiary, you cannot change it unless the person gives you written consent. If there's no written consent, you cannot change an irrevocable beneficiary. They now have vested rights in that policy. So if you're a man who owns a lot of buildings, you have a 20-floor building downtown that is bringing revenue of about $20 million a year, and you assign that to your favorite or to one of your daughters, and you make her the irrevocable beneficiary, there's no way you can go assign that building to somebody else unless that daughter gives you written permission. Common disaster clause talks more about when you have a beneficiary and you have the insured, and the beneficiary and the insured die in the same accident, and consistent with state law, they die within a certain number of hours that the state law assumes that they both die at the same time. That is called a common disaster. So states have laws that define how you handle the process in a common disaster clause. There are some states that might say, if you have two people in a car, insured and beneficiary, and the first one dies instantly, the second one is on coma, you take the second one to the hospital and say they die within 24 hours. They are considered to have died at the same time. Now, how about if they die 1 week later? Though it's from the same accident, they are not considered to have died at the same time. So if the second person to die was the beneficiary to the policy of the first person to die, the insured, then he will inherit the rights of the policy. So it's assumed that he or she inherited the rights of the policy. And even if he dies 1 week later, then the proceeds of the policy do not go to the insured estate. They go to who? To who the successors of that beneficiary are. So it's kind of technical. We'll see it in some questions that we're going to address it better. Policy loans, again, like I said, part of the rights of the owner is to be able to take policy loans. For universal life policies, there's also something called automatic premium loan. Automatic premium loan. An automatic premium loan is when you have a policy and that policy is building cash. And that policy is building cash. In a universal life policy, it builds both cash and policy value. And so if you miss a payment, they'll just take it out of your policy value to pay that policy. That's called an automatic premium loan. What is waiver of premium? There are some policies that have something they call waiver of premium and payer benefit. You will see these two questions, these two concepts in the exam. Guaranteed. Waiver of premium and payer benefit. What is waiver of premium and what's the difference between the two of them? Now, when you get a policy, you can say, if I, the owner of the policy, becomes disabled, if I'm the owner and the insured, and I become disabled, and for a period of 6 months, I cannot make the premiums, then the company is going to do what they call waiver of premium. And this is a rider. What is a rider? A rider is an additional provision that attaches to a policy. This is a rider that needed to have been added when the policy was set up. And for the waiver of premium rider, if the owner, who is the insured, cannot make the premiums, then the insurance company is going to automatically take over paying the premiums. It's going to automatically take over paying the premiums. That is waiver of premiums. Just give me a quick minute. All right, so yes, Lady Uju, I saw you request having the videos of the class. I will.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Go ahead, and I'm going to give you my number if you have a pen. Do you have a pen? Lady Uju, do you have a pen to write my number down?
Yes, sir.
All right, it's 816.
Hold on. I was talking without opening or muting myself.
It's 816-914-9632. I also put it in the chat.
816. Okay. All right, sir.
914-9632.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I'll forward the videos to you. So waiver of premium is when it is the insured who is the owner that becomes disabled, that the insurance company, once they become disabled, they don't have to pay premiums until they get well. All right. How about payer benefit? Payer benefit. Payer benefit is when it is a juvenile or somebody else that is the insured on the policy, but the owner is the payer. Okay. If the owner becomes disabled, then the payer benefit will kick in, and the juveniles who are insured, or the third party who is insured, if the owner who is the payer becomes disabled, they do not have to make premiums. So that's the payer benefit. Okay. Mostly for juvenile policies. Okay, for disability income, if you have a policy that says they'll pay you disability, while you are collecting that disability, it will waive the premiums. Okay, it will waive the premiums. Accelerated benefit. When it comes, the concept of accelerated benefit just says a policy has a death benefit. Say a policy has a $1 million death benefit. Riders, like I said, are provisions that are added to the policy. It does not need to have any riders, but there can be additional provisions that are added to a policy. And those provisions are going to include, say, payer benefit, riders for kids, automatic premium loan. So there are several riders that can be added to a policy. Another rider is like the accidental death benefit. The accidental death benefit is also called the double indemnity rider or the triple indemnity rider. And that just says, if you die, if you have a policy and you die and that death is a result, as is tongue twister here, is as a result of an accident, you're going to be paid double the death benefit. That's a double indemnity rider. Triple indemnity rider just says you're going to be paid triple the death benefit. So remember that if you have a rider that says there can be riders for critical illness, chronic illness, terminal illness. Take, for example, critical illness rider for the Index Universal Life Policy. It just says, if you have a condition as a result of critical illness, which means you have any of these big illnesses we're talking about, cancer, stroke, heart attack, diabetic retinopathy, ALS, all of that. Let's say you have one of those big illnesses and it's severe and you cannot work for 3 months and above. Your critical illness rider will kick in and that policy will pay you about 90% of the policy. Let's just say somebody's diagnosed with stage 3 cancer and they had the critical illness rider and they had $1 million policy. Transamerica or whichever company will pay them 90% of that, which is $900,000. Remember that those are accelerated benefits. So you'll be paid your death benefit ahead of time. Accelerated death benefit. Additional insured, you can add additional insured on your policy. You can add your spouse, you can add your children as riders. They call them children's riders. You can also add some other family members as riders to a policy. So accidental death, we talked about it. Guaranteed insurability. Guaranteed insurability is another rider that just says, so you have a policy for 300,000, 5 years later, you want to increase that policy to say 500,000, which are terms that are already going to be stated in the policy. If you buy the guaranteed insurability rider, when you first purchase the $300,000 policy, that rider is going to give you the right to increase the death benefit within a certain duration of time without having to go do a medical test. Without having to go do a medical test. I repeat that again, without having to go do a medical test or to prove insurability. That is what the guaranteed insurability rider is. They can say you can increase the face value up to age 55 or up to age 60. After that, your guaranteed insurability expires. And if you want to increase the face value, you might need to go do a medical test to show that something has not cropped up. Return of premium rider. A return of premium rider is a rider in some policies. You see, after the Index Universal Life Policy came out, then people started adding things to term policies to sort of make them a little bit more attractive. Because why do you want to get a term when you can get an Index Universal Life that is going to last you for the rest of your life? There is absolutely no reason. So a return of premium rider just says you'll have a term policy, but at the end of your policy or when your term expires, if you haven't died, they're going to return your premiums, your total premiums to you. Of course, they're going to charge you higher premiums for that policy. It's not just going to be a normal term anymore. Return of premium rider. Remember this, you're going to see it in the exam, 100%. You're going to see it in the exam. Another word for a return of premium rider is called an increasing term. Another word for a return of premium rider on the policy makes the policy an increasing term. Why is it an increasing term? Because if they are going to return you your premiums, then the amount of money that they can pay you increases on that term. Also for a return of premium rider, some of them will state that, let's say when you pass away, they'll not just pay you the death benefit, but they'll pay you the death benefit plus all the premiums you've paid. That's why they call it an increasing term. It increases by the amount of premiums you've paid. There's also another rider that might be called the cost of living rider. Cost of living rider. That policy might just say, if cost of living has increased at a certain time when you pass away, or at a certain time when you need coverage for critical illness, they're going to increase the amount of payment to you based on the increase in the cost of living. How do they figure out the cost of living? They look at the cost of they look at the inflation, or what they call the read of the consumer price index, CPI, read of the consumer price index. And if there's inflation, they will increase what they pay to you based on that. We're almost done. I know sometimes it's boring to lecture this because it makes you want to sleep. It's like, what is that guy just talking about? It's putting me to sleep, this insurance stuff. Okay. So they are setting what they call known for feature options in a policy. Usually when you hear about known for feature options in a policy, and you'll see this in the exam, 100% you'll see this. When they talk about known for feature options, they are talking about your policy that accumulates cash, universal life policy or whole life, that accumulates cash. Conditions that spell out how you do not have to lose your cash. So if you accumulate cash, there are things you can do with that cash. One, reduce paid up. It just says you have the right, if you accumulated cash, to reduce the face value of the policy and use that cash to pay it off. That's reduced paid up. Extended term, you can use that cash. So if it's a policy that was supposed to expire, you can use that policy to extend the term of the policy. Cash surrender. Cash surrender just says, if you decide not to have that policy and you want to surrender it, they're going to pay you a certain amount of money based on when you are surrendering it. The later you surrender the policy, the more you're going to be paid. Cash surrender. Okay, here we have the concept of dividend. Dividend. There are various ways that you can use dividends in the policy, but you must be asking, what is dividend? Why does the policy pay dividends? Is it a stock company or stuff like that? No. There are certain companies that are called participating companies. Participating companies. Or another name for participating companies are also called mutual insurers. Mutual insurers. The owners of policies actually become stakeholders in the company. So they are part owners of the company, depending on some calculation. So because they are owners, the holders of policies are owners of the policy. These policies pay what we call dividends. Dividends. Dividends are usually described as the return of unused premiums. The return of unused premiums. What does that mean? That means at the year, when they collect all premiums from policyholders in participating insurance companies, when they collect premiums, so you look at the aggregate or cumulative premiums or total premiums, and then they look at the total expenses. The excess of premiums and revenues over expenses is returned back to the policy owners as dividends. As dividends. You'll see this question in the exam 100%. And you just have to remember that dividends are not taxed. When they pay policy owners dividends, dividends are not taxed. However, if these dividends stay in the accounts of the policyholders, and they generate interest, the interest that is generated by these dividends is taxed. So if I had a pen and I was writing something, I will write down that dividends are not taxed, interest is taxed. You will see this question 100%. 100%. Give me 1 quick minute. Let me put lotion on my hands. My hands are feeling dry. Just 1 quick minute. Dividends are not taxed, interest is taxed. Dividends are not taxed, interest is taxed. So there are different ways that they can pay you the dividends. They can pay you a cash dividend where the insurer sends you a check. They can use the dividends to reduce your premiums for the next year, reduction of premium. If they keep it in your account and they accumulate interest, you pay taxes on it. You can also do what they call paid up additions. What are paid up additions? Paid up additions are when you increase the face value of your policy. Remember, face value, the same thing as death benefit. Well, might be, might not be, but face value is usually equals to the initial death benefit. Because if you have a policy that grows cash, the death benefit will change commensurate or consistent with the growth of cash. So the initial death benefit might be $1 million. If that policy starts to generate cash and grow cash, then the death benefit is initial face amount or initial death benefit plus cash growth. So paid up addition, they use it to increase the death benefit. They use your dividends to increase your death benefit. Paid up insurance, they can use it to pay off your premiums. If it's a lot, they can just use it to pay off your premiums and you totally own that policy free of any premiums. There's another one called 1 year term. You just use the dividends to buy additional 1 year policies. Settlement options usually apply to what we call, well, first of all, settlement options generally is just how they will pay you the proceeds of the life insurance policy when the insured passes away. So you can always state these arrangements when you get the policy. Cash is when they just pay you a lump sum. Somebody passes away, they just pay you the lump sum. That's called a cash settlement option. What's another? Life income. And what is life income? Let's say you create a policy, there's an insured and there's a beneficiary, and you don't want this beneficiary to receive the entire death benefit at the same time. Instead, you want them to use the death benefit to create an annuity where they can be receiving money every year from the policy. That is called a life income settlement option. Okay. You also have interest only. Somebody can have a policy that has a huge death benefit. Somebody can have a policy that has a death benefit of $20 million. But he wants to, if he dies, he wants you to use that $20 million to set up an investment or an annuity where they pay only the interest to his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. So let's say you have a $20 million policy. Let's say you are you put that policy in an investment that yields 20% a year, or let's just say 10%. $20 million policy, 10%. How much is 10% of 20 million? That's $2 million every year. And they are using just that $2 million to divide it to the children grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And then the 20 million stays as a permanent asset in his estate. So that's interest only. Fixed period is when they set up an annuity or an investment and they say they are going to pay you money or pay the beneficiary money for just a fixed period of time. They might say, we want this beneficiary to be paid for just 20 years. That is fixed period. Fixed amount is when they decide they're going to pay you a certain amount every year. So they can say they want this beneficiary to receive $150,000 every year. The size of the policy will determine how long you can pay the fixed amount. Size of the policy. All right. Good stuff. We've gone through the material. Now let's look at some questions. And I always call on people to participate. As you see, I've been talking for about 40 minutes, just yapping my gums. So this is the time when I start calling on people to read. So let's do it together. It's teamwork here. Lady Uju, can you read this question? What you do is you read just the question.
Okay.
You don't read those answer options. The class assesses them, and anybody who spots what the answer is can tell us what the answer is. So you read just the question. So go ahead.
Okay. The question says, methods used to pay the death benefit to a beneficiary upon the insured's death are called what?
Settlement options.
Yeah, that's correct. Settlement options. Settlement options. That's correct. All right. This is settlement options and methods used to pay death benefits to a beneficiary upon the insured's death. Next one, Vera. Can you read this one?
Okay. When the insured selects the extended term non-forfeiture option, the cash value will be used to purchase term insurance with what face amount?
Okay.
The same as the original policy minus the cash value.
Close, but read the other answers carefully. Anybody spotted another answer? Again, at this point, I'm going to bring in a concept. At this point, I'm going to bring in a concept. The best way to answer these questions is through elimination. You read them and you find what in that answer you can eliminate. So let me just use this as an example. For example, again, the question says, when the insured selects the extended term non-forfeiture option, the cash value will be used to purchase term insurance with what face amount? Extended term non-forfeiture option. A says equal to the cash value surrendered from the policy. As I said, why am I using my cash to buy cash? Doesn't make any sense. So we kick that out. B says the same as the original policy value or the original policy minus the cash value. Why would they want to reduce my cash value? I mean, why would they want to play with that additional cash as a factor to reduce the extended term or the original death benefit? We hold that, put it aside since Lady Uju selected it, but let's look at the other answers. C says, in lesser amounts of the remaining policy term of H100. Now, they are mixing term concepts and whole life. Whole life is a policy that usually lasts until 100. So they're just trying to mix those to confuse you. we kick that off. D says, equal to the original policy for as long as the cash values will purchase. Equal to the original policy. Remember, the extended term is always equal. The new policy, the extension of the term is always of the original face value of the policy. Remember that. When you see this question in the exam, remember that. And 100%, you will see this question in the exam. Let's submit and see if we are right. That's correct. That's correct. All right. So next question. Miss Karen, if you're there, can you read this one? Miss Karen, if you are reading, you're reading on mute. Lady Endeli, if you are there, can you read this one?
The life insurance policy clause that prevent an insurance company from denying payment of a death claim after a specified period of time is known as the...
Okay. Okay. Anybody spot the right answer?
Incontestability.
The incontestability clause prevents an insurance company from denying payment to a death claim after a specified period of time. That is called the incontestability clause. And what is the normal duration of the incontestability clause?
2 years.
2 years. For most states, it is 2 years. All right. Oh, I forgot. Did I submit it? I forgot to submit it. But that's the answer, incontestability. Question 4 here. Question 4 here. Somebody joined with the number 479-059-3530. Who is that blessed person who joined with that number? Or with that screen name, 479-059-3530. Can that person identify themselves? All right. I did not get their name. What's your name?
Good evening, sir. It's Adeline.
All right, Adeline.
I'm sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Nice to know that you're the one who joined. So can you go ahead and read the question?
Okay. Which of the following statement is true concerning irrevocable benefits?
All right.
Irrevocable beneficiary.
Yeah,
A, they can be changed only with the written concept of the beneficiary. B,
no, we don't read the options. We just we're silent. Everybody just reads the options, and then he who spots the right answer tells us.
Okay. They may be changed only irrevocable.
Irrevocable cannot be.
They can never be changed. D.
All right, irrevocable beneficiary. Somebody says they can never be changed. Any other answer?
A.
Irrevocable.
All right. So irrevocable, you can change it only with the consent of the beneficiary.
Oh.
Yes, you can change it with the consent of the beneficiary.
Okay.
But for revocable, the owner of the policy can change the beneficiary anytime. For irrevocable, you can only change it with the consent of the beneficiary.
Okay.
All right, so let's submit that. We're right. Okay.
You can change. Wow.
Yeah. Next question. Vera, can you read this one?
What is the other term for the cash payment settlement option?
Okay,
So,
Lump sum.
correct,
that's right.
correct.
Cash payment settlement option is called lump sum.
Yep.
All right. We submit, and that's correct. Next one. Lady Uju, can you read this one? Lady Uju, if you are reading, you're reading on mute. You're on mute.
According to the entire contract provision, a policy must contain what?
Okay.
I think D.
Correct. According to the entire contract provision, a policy must contain a copy of the original application for insurance. Very true.
Yes, yes.
Very true. You submit, and that's correct. Go to the next one, number 7 of 15. Lady Endeli, can you read this one?
According to the entire contract provision, what document must be made part of the insurance policy?
B.
B.
Correct. They ask the question again.
B.
And copy of the original application.
Mhm.
So you will see this question in the exam. 100%. You will say it.
If you are sitting, you sit quiet or you go. Go.
All right. So let's see.
Let's go. Let me give you food. Huh?
Lady Adeline, can you read this one? After the child goes. We're a kid-friendly business, so it's very
The insurance has the insured had his wife named as the beneficiary of his life insurance policy. To ensure that his wife, something is blocking my internet. His wife had income for life after the insured death. He chose the life income settlement option. The amount of payment will be determined by taking into account all of the following except project interest rate, the insured age at death, the beneficiary life expectancy, the fixed amount of the policy. I don't know that one. Insured, the insured name as the insured has his wife named as the beneficiary of his life insurance policy. To ensure that his wife had income for life after the insured death, he chose the life income settlement option. The amount of payment will be determined by taking into account all of the following except the
I want to think B. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's an answer there which only God knows.
The insured age at death. Because I thought of this at death.
Yeah, there's no way you can know the insured age of death.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Let's see if it's right.
It will.
correct. That's the except.
Okay.
The insured age of death will not be considered, but the longer the life expectancy of the beneficiary or recipient, the lower the payments will be.
Wow.
So, we're making progress. We're making progress. Adeline, can you read this one again?
None for future value guarantee which none for future value guarantee which of the following for the policy owner?
And for future values.
That the policy premium will never increase. None for future value guarantee. That the individual will
None for future.
that the death benefit will be paid in lump sum.
The answer
That
is,
the premium will never increase.
the answer is always in the question. All what you need to do to figure out the answer to this question is ask yourself, what does known for future mean?
I choose A.
D. I choose D.
Known for future, what do they mean to forfeit? Say you forfeit something.
For you to lose something.
To lose something. All right.
So D.
Correct.
D.
D. Wow.
Correct.
That the cash value will not be lost.
Correct. Says because permanent life insurance policies have cash value, there are certain guarantees built into the policy that cannot be forfeited by the policy owner. Known for future values give the insured the right to the cash value, even if the policy lapses or is surrendered. Okay. Vera, you want to read this one?
Which life insurance settlement option guarantees payment for the lifetime of the recipient, but also specifies a guaranteed period during which, if the original recipient dies, the payments will continue to to a designated beneficiary?
C.
Okay.
It's just
you-
3. Okay. Life income.
I go with C.
Which life insurance
Okay.
settlement
C looks like the answer, but it's a slippery answer.
guarantees
Really?
payment for lifetime for the recipient, but also specifies a guaranteed period.
Single line, fixed amount.
The key phrase to,
D.
correct.
D.
The key phrase to answer that question is,
Life
but
income
also
and
specifies
period
a guaranteed period.
period setting.
Life income with period setting. Because they have to pay for that period. Let's say the period is 20 years and they've paid only for 12 years. Guess what? They will still pay the rest to a contingent beneficiary. So let's say they say, I'm going to set up this policy. If I die, I want you to pay this beneficiary for 20 years, but payments have to be made certain for 20 years. How about if that beneficiary dies at age 12? I mean 12 years after payments have started. Do the payments stop? No. They said period setting. So they have to pay for those 20 years. So either the contingent beneficiary is going to receive payments, and if the contingent beneficiary has also died, then the payments will go to the insured estate. All right. So life income with period setting. Let's select that, and that is correct. All right. Let's go to the next one. Lady Endeli, can you read this one?
Which rider, when attached to a permanent life insurance policy, provides an amount of insurance on every family member?
Okay.
Family term rider.
Family term
Family
rider.
term rider, yeah. D.
So A is out, C is out. It's between B and D.
Mm-hmm.
It's between B and D. But they
It's D.
said provides an amount on every family member.
Family member.
Let's go with D.
Family
And see.
term, yes.
And that's correct.
Yeah.
A single rider that provides coverage for every family member is called a family rider. All right. So let's go to the next one. Lady Endeli, can you read this one again?
When a policy owner designates a group of individuals as the beneficiary of a life insurance death benefit without specifically naming the individual, this is called
Plus, I'm thinking A.
Correct. It's called a class designation. It's called a class designation. The beneficiaries belong to that class. And that class, again, might name something like all my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. That's a class designation. That's a class designation. I'm going to tell you guys something interesting, which I learned from law school. A lot of rich Jewish people in the past used to name their children as beneficiaries of their will, but put a condition there that you have to marry another Jewish person to inherit that money.
Really? Wow.
Yes. We even read a case where it's a very rich Jewish guy. He put it in the designation that you have to marry a Jewish person. And if you do not marry a Jewish person, then the whole entire money will go to the state of Israel.
Wow.
So, yeah. In the past, there used to be designations where people would expressly state in their will that you inherit, but you do not have to marry a certain minority. You marry a certain minority, you're kicked out of the will. But people fought that right up to, I think, right up to Supreme Court, and they made those kind of designations illegal.
Wow.
So the answer certainly is A. They say designation such as a child of the insured or all children of the insured or all current members of a group is called a class designation. The individuals need not be specifically named since each who met the qualifications of being included in the class will share in the benefit. Now, let me tell you another thing that I learned in law school. Sometimes you can put a class designation and say all my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. That is assuming you know who all your children are. How about if some lady got pregnant with your child and you did not know that you had that child? And then after you die, that child shows up with their lawyer to say, this was my father. And they can do DNA tests and it will confirm that you are the father. They are gonna be included in the class. They're gonna collect. So in such cases, you have to include in that class that all my children that are identified at the time of my death. So, all right. Question 13 here. Question 13 here. It says, let's see. Vera, you want to read this one for us?
Which of the following is true about, is my mute? Okay. Which of the following is true about a class designation?
Okay. Okay. So here again is something that we can. Let's start from the bottom. D says it is not allowed. Is that true?
False.
No, so we kick that out.
Mm-hmm.
C says beneficiaries must be part of the insured's immediate family. Is that true?
No.
I don't
So we
think so.
kick that out.
No.
So now we have 50% of getting it right because we've already eliminated 50%. It's between A and B.
B. B.
B says it determines the succession of beneficiaries. A says beneficiaries are not identified by name. What was the answer again?
B.
They are not identified by name. It's A.
Class designation.
Really?
A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. Let's go with A and C. It's between those two. So let's just see. So A is right.
They're not identified by name.
Yes.
Correct. For example, if you say all my children, you don't have to name your children. Just say all my children. You say all my children identified at the time of my death. We know who your children were identified. So a class of beneficiaries using a designation such as my children. This can be a vague term if the insured has been married more than once or has adopted the illegitimate children. Many insurers encourage the insured to name each child specifically and to state the percentage of benefit they are to receive. So, interessant. When it comes to estate issues, families can get divided very, very easily.
Yeah.
You know, 14 of 15. Miss Geraldine, are you there? If you're there, let's know by you reading this one here. Miss Geraldine, are you there?
Yes. An insurer has chosen the joint and two-third survivors settlement option. What does this mean to the beneficiaries?
Okay. Joint and two-third survivor option. All right. Let me scroll down so that we see all the questions. First of all, let's first define some terms here. This talks about two concepts: joint life and then joint and survivor life. So you join life, joint and survivor. When you state the joint life option, it means they will pay to both people. Let's say they are paying to a spouse. They will pay to both people, but when the first person dies, the payment stops. So I always tell people to write joint life equals to first to die. Joint life equals to first to die. That will help you remember. Joint life equals to first to die. How about joint and survivor? I also have people write down joint and survivor equals to second to die. Joint and survivor equals to second to die.
Yes, I have that.
And so for joint and survivor, they will pay a certain amount to both parties while they are still alive. But when the first party dies, they will continue to pay a certain proportion to the second person until the second person dies. So which answer do we think is the right one here? All right. So remember, in the question, they are talking about the key thing to remember, the key phrase that is going to answer this question is when they say 2/3 survivor settlement option. 2/3 survivor settlement option, which means the surviving party or the surviving spouse will receive 2/3 of what they were paying when both of them are alive.
A.
What was that?
A.
But this one says the beneficiary received 2/3 of the lump sum upfront and the remaining 1/3. But it says 2/3 survivor option. So all will receive 100%. Both of them will receive 100%. That's what it means. Both of them will receive 100% of what the payments are. But when the first person dies, the surviving person will continue to receive 2/3 of what was being paid to both of them.
C.
Pardon?
C.
C as in Charlie. Let's see if that one is right.
C.
And that's correct.
Wow.
When the reduced option is written as joint and 2/3 survivor, the surviving beneficiary receives 2/3 of what was received when both parties were alive. So pay attention to this question because you'll see about 5 questions on joint and survivor in the exam. We're talking about setting up trust, setting up beneficiary, setting up wills. This is just an aside advice. Always make sure that you have a will. Or say within the next year, I'm going to resolve myself to writing a will. And resolve yourself that you're going to write a will that meets the requirements of state law. Because if you don't write a will and you pass away, who gets to divide your estate? If you don't write a will and you pass away, who gets to divide your estate? The probate court. And they will divide it consistent with state law. So you will not have any role in dividing your estate. Now, you have to write a will that meets the requirements of state law. Because if you write a will that does not meet the requirements of state law, when you pass away and anybody challenges that will, and you think you had a will, when you write a will and it doesn't, if somebody challenges that will and it did not meet the requirements of state law, the court is going to throw it out. So a will must be valid, and there are certain attributes that make a will valid. For example, it must be signed by 2 persons in the presence of the testator. The testator is the person who writes the will or on whose behalf that will is written. If it's your will, you are the testator. And for a will to be valid, it has to be signed by 2 witnesses in the presence of the testator. If they are not in the same spot and they sign, and somebody challenges that will, you write a will, somebody challenges it, and this person says, I was running late, I was in traffic. By the time I came, the first person had signed, and then I also signed. It's an invalid will. So it's good to have a will and to have a valid will. A will cannot be, you cannot write a will. Let's say you write a will and you say, I'm going to give, I have 3 children. I'm going to give 33% to each, 33%. The last one, I'm going to give 34%. You divide it like that, it equals 100. And then one of the kids pisses you off. And you say, I'm not going to leave you any 33%. So you go to your will and you cross that and you write, the first 2 children are going to receive 40% each, and the last one will receive 20% each. By law. Does anybody know what you just did by doing that? You have destroyed that will. So if you write a will and you go cross a line and change something, you have destroyed the entire will. The entire will has become void. So if you pass away, it's like you didn't have a will. The probate court is going to decide who gets what. So just an aside here. But let's okay, we submitted and this was right. Okay, question 15 here. Lady Endeli, you want to read this one?
Which of the following information will be stated in the consideration clause of a life insurance policy?
Okay. Consideration clause. So which of the info, first of all, what is consideration? We lectured on what was consideration. If we have a consideration clause, which of these will be stated in the consideration clause?
The amount of the premium paid.
The amount of the premium payment. Consideration is about what you give in material value to bind the contract. Us as insurance professionals, premium payment is what we give to bind the contract. So that is going to be stated in the consideration clause. So let's submit. Yeah, and that is right. The consideration clause states that the value offered by the insured is the premium and statements made in the application. Remember, I also said, what you state on the applications, the facts you state, where do I live? What is my height? What is my weight? All of that information. Who is my doctor? All of that. My phone number, my email, those are all consideration as well as the premium paid. So, all right, let's submit and see how many we got right. I think we might have gotten 100%. We did. So great job, class. We're going to do one more set of questions and then we're going to call it a night. One more set of questions. But there's this case that I studied in law school that is just on my mind, just to inform people about the essence of writing a valid will so that you are the one who gets to decide where your estate goes. So there was this rich guy who got married. He divorced his wife. Then he married a second woman. The second woman was very troublesome. So, but he had left in his will a lot for the second woman instead of his children. So he rewrote the will and went to the bank to have them signed. Okay. Went to the bank to have that will signed and put in the bank vault. So when he went to the bank, he got there and he was conversing with the first secretary that was there to sign. And she signed, but the other person who was supposed to be signed was still attending to a client. So the first person signed, first secretary at the bank signed, and then left, and the second one came and signed also after the first one had left. And so not too long after that, this very rich guy died. So by the time he died, he had already divorced the second wife. So the second wife challenged that will. And they had to call the secretaries at the bank who signed. And they put them on oath and they said, when did you sign? And when you signed, was the second person who signed there? And the secretary said, no, she was attending to a client and she came and signed. The court threw out the will. So everything that was supposed to be taken away from the woman who had made divorce ended up going back to her. So you have to make sure your will is valid. There was a second case we dealt in which the guy takes the will to a party. He wants his friends to sign. So he gathers the two of them. He says, you guys go sign this will. All of us are going to sign. We're going to be together. So they are going. One guy stops the other one in the hallway and starts talking. So he arrives late when the first person has signed and left. Then he signs also. When he passes away, they challenge the will. So they call the first person who signed. When you sign, was the first, was that second person there? No. The will is thrown out. So it's always good to have a will. It's always, because sometimes we think when we sit in a house, sit on a table, I am so and so person, and I have these assets, these assets, these assets, and upon my death, I want to assign this to Johnny, this to Susie, this to my husband, this to my cousin Tyrone. My signature below indicates that I am the one who has written this will. You sign it, you date it, you keep it in your drawer, you say, yay, I have a will. If you pass away, anybody challenges that will, it gets thrown out because it did not meet the state statutory requirements of a will. So just an aside. All right. So let's do a new set of questions here. We're going to go fast. And I'll tell you guys a little bit of this legal story so that when you want to come to class next time, you might learn something else. Don't say, I don't want to go to that boring insurance class. You might learn a lot that might help your family, you know. Adeline is laughing. Yeah. So let's launch a new attempt, a new set of questions, 15 of them here. First, Adeline, why don't you read this one for us? Why don't you read the question for us?
Let me unmute. What is the purpose of settlement option?
Okay.
I know, that's because you're showering. I don't even want to. Is it B? I don't know.
They provide the beneficiary with the income to the end of the beneficiary life.
I choose D.
B.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
What is the book? Yes. D.
You determine how debt
Proceeds will be paid.
will be paid. Well, I don't know. We are not hearing.
Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, I was saying that somebody chose an option that represents the name David, which is D for David.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about the settlement options, we talked about fixed period settlement option. We talked about fixed amount. We talked about cash settlement, which is another word for lump sum. So those are all settlement options, which all rhyme with D. They determine how death proceeds will be paid. Okay. Settlement options are methods used to pay the death benefit to a beneficiary upon the insured's death, or to pay the endowment benefit if the insured lives to the endowment date. All right. Question 2 of 5. Vera, can you read this one?
The rider in a whole life policy that allows the company to forego collecting the premium if the insured is disabled is called waiver of premium.
Okay.
C.
Guaranteed insurability.
No, this one is going to be the waiver of premium. Remember, I talked about the waiver of premium. Waiver of premium versus, in fact, the two riders that might apply here are either waiver of premium or pay your benefit. Waiver of premium is if the payer is also the insured and they become disabled. If the payer of the policy is also the insured on the policy and they become disabled, then we are talking about the waiver of premium. The other similar rider that will waive premium is the payer benefit, but it's mostly when there's a juvenile that is on the policy, or there's a juvenile that is the insured, and then the owner or the payer becomes disabled. The owner who is the payer becomes disabled, then they will cover that juvenile. Also, if the owner or juvenile is the insured and they have the waiver of premium and the payer dies, the insured does not have to pay premiums until that child gets to age 21. Then they have to take over the policy. So, but here they say that the rider and whole life policy allows the company to forego collecting premium if the insured is disabled. Waiver of premium. You will see this question 100% in the exam. Yeah. All right, next question. Vera, you want to read this one?
The interest earned on policy dividends is non-taxable. It's taxable, the interest.
Yeah. This one is what I call a low-hanging fruit. You harvest the answer and you run. Remember, the main formula is dividends are not taxable, interest is taxable.
Taxable.
Yeah. Dividends are not taxable, interest is taxable.
Yeah.
So, correct. Submit. Yeah. Dividends are a return of unused premiums on which the insured has already paid taxes. Any interest earned is taxable. Remember, dividends are also payments to the policy owners when the insurance company is a participating insurance company. It's either called a participating insurance company or a mutual insurer. Participating insurance company or mutual insurance. So you might see this question asked from a different angle, as opposed to a stock insurance company, which is an insurance company that is owned by stockholders. But a mutual insurer or participating insurance company is an insurance company that is owned by the policy holders. So when you hear a company like Mutual of Omaha, that is a participating insurance company. All right. Go to the next one. Lady Endele, you want to read this one for us?
Yes. The insured under a 100,000 life insurance policy with a triple indemnity rider for accidental death was killed in a car accident. It was determined that the accident was his fault. The triple indemnity rider in the policy specifies that the death must not be contributed to by the insured in any manner. In this case, what would be the policy beneficiary receive?
All right.
What would the policy beneficiary receive?
Correct.
300 triple the amount.
Is it B?
Anything
300 triple the amount of policy value.
but remember it says
The accident is for.
it was determined that the accident was his fault, and it says the triple indemnity rider in the policy specifies that the death must not be contributed to by the insured in any manner.
3.0.
Are you sure? Remember also that it is only the triple indemnity rider that states that. So that clause that it should not be contributed to by his fault is pertaining or relating or applying only to the triple indemnity rider.
So it will be 100 D.
Correct. The answer is always in the question. The answer is always in the question. If you read the question carefully, you'll get the answer. All right. Next one, 5 of 15 here. Lady Oju, can you read this one?
What is the purpose of a free look period in insurance policies?
All right, you guys try to determine the answer here. Let me close the door here and I'll be right back.
First, let's try to find out what's a free look policy, free look period.
It's the period when the insurer can either decide
A or
to
D.
cancel.
Yeah, so free look period is when the policy is delivered to the owner, and it's a period where they can look at it. It's delivered with a buyer's guide. They can look at it and they decide to change their mind or to keep it. So,
So it's either A or D then.
yes.
I think D.
D is talking about the insurer. The free look it's mostly determined by the insured. So I think it should be A.
It allows the
Yes, A
insured
is
to
the answer.
reject the policy with full refund.
Yeah.
That's the free look. And how long is usually the free look period?
10 days.
10
10
days.
days. Yeah. For insurance policies, it's 10 days. For long-term care, it's usually 30 days. If you're buying a stand-alone long-term care. But for insurance, it's usually 10 days. Correct. So the free look provision allows the policy owner a specified number of days from the receipt to look over the policy, and if this dissatisfied for any reason, return it for a full refund of the premium. Now, let me ask another question that you might see in the exam or will likely see. What document has to accompany the policy to satisfy the free look period? What document has to come with the policy in order for the free look period to be effective?
I just said it a few minutes ago. If anybody remembers.
Yeah.
Buyer's guide.
Correct, the buyer's guide. Because the buyer's guide is going to help explain the policy in detail and help the client or the proposed insured to compare it with other types of policies. And so for that free look period to be effective, that policy has to be delivered with the buyer's guide. So you'll see questions in the exam that will revolve around that. All right. Number 6 here. Adeline, you want to read this one? Vera, can you go ahead and read? Oh, okay. Adeline is
I'm right here.
available. Yes.
I'm on mute.
All right.
Just came. Items stimulated in the contract that the insurer will not provide coverage for are found in the items stimulated in the contract that the insurer will not provide coverage for are found in the insurance.
So let's do elimination. Let's do elimination here. It's the items stipulated in the contract that the insurer will not provide coverage for are found in the A consideration clause. Is that describing what the consideration clause is?
No.
No, we kick that out. B, it says benefit payment clause.
No.
All right. So we are left now with exclusions clause and insuring clause. So which of those seem to be a clause that would describe items that the insurer will not provide coverage for?
Exclusion clause.
All right. So let's select that and see if it's right. Correct. So you see the answer is always in the question. 95% of the time, the answer will be in the question. You just have to read it carefully.
Exclusion, restriction of coverage as stated in the policy.
Correct. All right. Next question here. Lady Oju, can you read this one? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
No, sir.
So help correct me.
My name is Uju.
Uju. All right.
Uju. Uju.
Uju. Okay. All
After
right.
a back injury, an insured is disabled for a year. His insurance policy carries a disability income benefit rider. Which of the following benefits will he receive? His insurance policy carries a disability income benefit rider.
B. I think B.
Okay. Monthly premium waiver and monthly income. Somebody said B. Let me go with it and see if we are right. And that's correct. Remember, if they have the disability income rider, that disability income rider will pay them a certain amount of income when they are disabled. But also, once they start collecting, they will not be paying any premiums anymore. So.
So much.
All right. We are getting towards the end, so hang in tight. Question 8. Jay, you want to help us read this one?
What is the waiting period for a waiver of premium rider in life insurance policies.
Okay. You will see this one in the exam, 100%. Okay. B is a little off. Remember that when you have a disability income rider on a policy, or when that policy has a premium, a waiver of premium rider, either pay your benefit or waiver of premium rider. If that payer becomes disabled, the waiting period is always 6 months. So you still have to pay the premium for 6 months, but after those 6 months, if you are still disabled, the company is going to take over the premium payments. 6 months. But there's one other thing that you need to remember. If it was a rider for critical or chronic illness, that critical or chronic illness has to last just for 90 days, 3 months. If after 3 months, you still have that critical or chronic illness, then you can file for a critical illness benefit from the insurance company and they'll pay you. And that's why sometimes people in our community, when they get these policies, they have something like prostate cancer stage 1, and they apply to get paid. Well, prostate cancer, from what I understand, it's an outpatient procedure. You go do your surgery, within a day, you're back home, and within about 3 weeks, you're back to work. And when they don't pay them, they go, oh my, these people are scammers. They said, if I have anything like cancer, they're going to pay me 90%, and they didn't pay. Well, the policy booklet describes it. You know, it has to be a condition where you are away from work for 3 months. So they can still pay you for prostate cancer stage 1. If you decide not to go to work for 3 months, they can still pay you, but your payment is going to be calibrated to match the severity of your situation. And sometimes it's not worth it. Not even sometimes. All of the time, it's not worth it. But if you have like stage 3 cancer, they are paying you 90%. No dispute. Okay. 9 of 15. Miss Karen, are you there? Can you help read this one? Okay. Lady Endeli, you want to read this one?
Which of the following premium payment mode will incur the lowest overall payment?
Okay. Which of the following premium modes will act? First of all, what are the premium modes? You have monthly, you have quarterly, you have semi-annual, you have annual. Annual means you're paying just once a year. Monthly means you're paying every month. So 1 month, you're paying premiums every month as opposed to paying once a year. Which do you think the premium is going to be lower?
Once a year.
Very true. Why? Because if you're paying once a year, then you have transaction costs only for 1 payment, as opposed to transaction costs for 12 payments. And that's correct. Annual premiums are the only modes of payment that do not result in service fee, so the overall payment will be lower. And if you want your money to compound better in a policy, do an annual payment. All right. 10 of 15. Miss Adeline, you want to read this one? Even with the sound of your child in the background, you want to read this one? You have to unmute. Okay. If she's not available, Lady Uju. Lady Uju, can you read this one?
Okay. So this one says, an
By the way,
insured.
the way I'm going to learn to pronounce your name is, remember the name Ojuku, but it's not O, it is Uju.
You just remember to call my name with the alphabet sounds. U
Right.
is U, not O.
Very
It's
true.
U, U-J-U, U sound.
Yeah. U, yes. Yes.
So
All right, go ahead.
an insured has had a life insurance policy that he purchased 3 years ago when he was 40 years old. He is killed in an automobile accident, and it is discovered that he is actually 45 years old and not 43, as stated on the application. What will the company do? They will just give him what is appropriate for his age.
Okay. Pay a reduced benefit.
That will be T.
Yeah.
I think they will reduce it to what is his age. I think I heard you say something like that.
Correct. You heard very right. You heard very right. All right. Lady Endeli, you want to read this one? Okay.
When an insured under a life insurance policy died, the designated beneficiary received the face amount of the policy, as well as a refund of all the premium paid, which rider is attached to the policy.
Return of premium.
Somebody mentioned the answer. What was that?
Return of premium.
Correct. Return of premium. What is another name for return of premium? Increasing term. Increasing term. That's another name for return of premium. Increasing term. All right. At the end, it says the return of premium rider is funded by using increasing term insurance. Remember that. Return of premium, another word for it is increasing term. You'll also see questions where the answer is decreasing term. Who knows what another name for a decreasing term?
Return of
Credit life.
return of premium.
No, that's increasing term.
Increasing
I'm asking
term,
about
okay.
decreasing term.
Credit life.
Credit life. That's right. Credit life. And decreasing term is when you go to the bank and you take a loan and they want to take an insurance policy on you to ensure that you pay that loan. Well, by insurance law, you can only take and maintain a policy that is related to the amount of the loan owed. So for a decreasing term, as you pay the loan, as you pay the principal towards the loan, and that principal decreases, so does the death benefit. So as the loan value decreases, the death benefit is also going to decrease. That's why they call it decreasing term. Remember that for a decreasing term, it is not the premium that is decreasing. It is the death benefit or the face value that is decreasing. And when, as you are paying that loan, when the loan is close to zero, the death benefit of that policy is also close to zero. All right.
Uncle Valley,
Yes.
if I may add, on that decreasing term, you'll see about 7 to 10 questions on that particular issue, decreasing term.
Really?
Pretty light. Yes.
Wow.
It's very big. You see, very true, very true, Geraldine. You see questions like, on a decreasing term, who is the owner of the policy? The owner of the policy is the creditor. Okay. Then you see on the decreasing term, you also see a question that has to do with who has to have insurable interest in the order.
Yeah.
Is it the bank that has to have insurable interest on the client, or is it the client that has to have insurable interest in the bank? It is the bank that has to have insurable interest in the life of the debtor. So you see things like that. So, Vera, can you read this one for us?
At the time the insured purchased her life insurance policy, she added a rider that will allow her to purchase additional insurance in the future without having to prove insurability. This rider is called
Okay.
guaranteed. Is it guaranteed
Guaranteed
insurance?
insurability.
Correct. Correct.
Mhm.
Guaranteed insurability rider.
Mhm.
Yep. We've explained that abundantly and we need not explain it again.
Mhm.
Next question, just 3 more to go. Just 3 more to go. Lady Endeli, you want to read this one?
What is the term for how frequently a policy owner is required to pay the policy premium?
Right.
Consideration
The mode.
period.
Correct.
Premium mode.
Yeah, the
So
mode.
that mode can either be monthly, quarterly, biannually, or annually. So all of those are premium paying modes.
Premium mode.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Premium mode. Let's go to the next one. One but last one. Adeline, can you read this one for us?
Okay. Life income joint and survivor settlement option guaranteed.
Okay.
Recipient until death. Payment of death proceeds.
I don't know this one.
Joint survivor is two income for two or more recipients.
Remember what I told you guys to write? You always get this question right. You just write joint life equals to first to die. Joint life equals to first to die. Joint and survivor equals to second to die.
Equal payment. Income for two or more recipients until death. No. Payment of interest of death proceeds. Equal payment to all recipients. Pay out of the entire death benefit. Is it A?
Payment of interest on death proceeds.
Yeah.
Remember again, let me explain this. Joint life means payments are going to be made to both people when both people are still alive. When the first person dies, payments stop. Nothing paid to the second person. Joint and survivor means payment is going to be made to both persons, but when the first person dies, they continue paying a reduced amount to the second person until the second person dies and payments stop.
Equal payment to others. No payment, pay out of the entire debt limit.
Will be B.
Yeah,
Right.
P.
Very true. It's going to be B. Submit. There you go. So we've explained that abundantly. Last one here. Last one here. Miss J, why don't you crown this one by reading it to us?
Which of the following is not typically excluded from life policies?
All right. This is a good one to end with.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's
C.
go why the person is committing the following.
I think it should be C. And crash for a fair paying.
Now, if everybody in your house was traveling, and almost every household in America, once or twice a year, people travel, will it be reasonable to include, will it be reasonable to exclude death from a plane due to people traveling for normal business?
No.
Correct. So based on your answer, what do you think the answer here is?
It's C.
Right? You're right. Which of the following is not typically excluded from life insurance policy? You said it's C. Death due to plane crash for a fare-paying passenger. Very true. Let's see if we are right.
No.
That's correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. So generally, policies do not exclude conditions in which an insured is a fare-paying passenger on a commercial plane. So great class tonight. Let's keep watching those videos. Keep watching those videos. Lady Uju, send me a text. Let me forward the videos to you. And if you watch those videos, do this
I've
practice.
done that already, sir.
All right, excellent. I'll forward them to you. If you watch those videos, attend these lectures, and just do, every time go to a chapter, do 3 deep. You see, this is the second time we're doing this test, and we did not get any of the repeat of the first 15 questions. If you do it the third time, you'll still get a new set of questions, but after that, they might have exhausted all of their questions for that chapter. And then you know you got them cornered. You've seen all the questions. So, all right. Thanks for being here. Good night. I really appreciated you guys coming to class. All right.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
Yeah.
Thank you,
you,
sir. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
Good
night.
night,
Good night,
Mr.
guys.
Thank
All right.